We've just got to Lies, Volume 3 in the Gone series. Perhaps you could tell us about Lies, where the story has moved on to, but also backtrack and tell us about the whole series.
Well, the idea of Gone is pretty simple. One day, for reasons that are not at all apparent at first, every single person 15 and over disappears from this town in Perdido Beach, California. And they find that they are trapped behind an absolutely impenetrable barrier, 20 miles in diameter. So starting from this rather incredible premise, I wanted to walk the story forward as realistically and honestly as I could. So in Volume 1, Gone, we see the beginnings of coping with this, and then Hunger is the second book, and I think that title's fairly self-explanatory. And by the time we get to book 3, Lies, I wanted to examine almost God, I hate to use the word political, but almost the political substructure that's going on, and the question of honesty. So I wanted to look at the effect that lies have on all kinds of different aspects. The lies that people tell to each other for the best of reasons, the lies they tell to themselves, perhaps for self-defense, the lies they tell for pure manipulation, for evil purposes, and the kind of the broader lie of a descent from sanity into insanity. So that's, without giving too much away, that's the idea of Lies. And you watch the characters in some cases cope very well with this, and then you watch some characters who you liked probably and admired kind of not necessarily step up.
In a sense, you're giving the psychology behind the narrative, aren't you? So the story now, it seemed to me in Lies, you've gone into a much more psychological position, and we learn much more about the characters. And the characters are very important. Can you talk a bit about the characters in the series?
I think, first of all, in Lies, yeah, we get into more the psychology behind some of the characters, and discover things that we don't necessarily see coming in them. Because I like complex characters. I like to believe that, I'm not sure I like to believe it, but I do believe in any case that people are almost never completely good or completely evil. And I deal a little bit with that. So there's an admired character, actually there are two admired characters who fail in fairly major ways, one with more drastic results than the other. I like the idea of writing the series in part because I can go deeper and deeper on the characters and show some change, in what they're seeing of the world, how they're responding to the world. And I'm not sure that if readers appreciate that sometimes or not, because they might like a particular character, and then I'll get Facebook messages or emails saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe you made that character do something bad." And I always respond and say, you don't do anything bad. Good people sometimes do bad things.
But basically what you're looking at is life under very extreme situation, and I don't know what your models are, but I immediately of course think of Lord of the Flies, which for the UK reader is a sort of classic version of that. Teenagers are complex, interesting, difficult characters going through a lot of change, and you put them in this challenging situation. Are you particularly interested in teenagers?
I don't, in some ways, know why I chose teenagers for this, except that I wanted as extreme a situation as possible. I wanted the jeopardy to be real, I wanted the characters to be real, I wanted the action to be real, and when somebody dies, that's real. To me, the sweet spot was to find the place between a kid who is still a kid a little bit, so 14, 13, that area, and any older, and they start turning into more, they cross some sort of line. And they reach a point where they have to be held more responsible for their own behavior. So I like the idea of using characters who are right at that point where they may not have begun to assume full responsibility for their lives, and nobody really expects them to have full responsibility for their lives. And nevertheless, suddenly this is thrust upon them. Now they have no choice. It's the most extreme situation I could find. And it is, I would say, a little bit like Lord of the Flies, although the funny thing is, I didn't realize it till I was halfway through book 1. And I was kind of woke up one day and, oh my God, I'm doing Lord of the Flies. So there is, there is, interestingly, by the way, in the map, if you look in the map of Perdido Beach, there is a Golding Street. There are many little shout outs in the maps to various people who've inspired me, whether or not I knew it consciously at the time.
Who are the other people who've inspired you?
Well, if you look at the map, well, first of all, of course, in the map there are references to various Chicago chefs who I really like was living in Chicago at one point. Grand Atkins and Charlie Trotter, and Lake Tremonto is named for the guy who runs True. But setting my own peculiar obsession with food aside, there's a shout out to Mr. Golden, of course, that there's also Perdido Beach, in Spanish is Lost Beach, for the TV show Lost, which was an inspiration of this. And then there's the Stefano Rey National Forest, which, if you speak Spanish, translates to Stephen King, who is the godfather of all horror, and he's been extremely nice and being supportive of the books and liked them, and wrote me to say so, and so that was extremely cool. That was the nicest thing ever, because that was the guy I wanted. He's not much older than I am. He's the guy I wanted to grow up to be, on the off chance that I grew up at some point.
Without giving anything away completely, we've got more titles to come.
Mm-hmm.
And when you started this series, did you do what a teacher would have told you, which is to plan it all? Do you know where you're going to end?
I have absolutely no idea where I'm going to go, except that I know this, that I've kept a good enough grip on the mythology that hasn't gotten away from me. It still makes sense, at least in my head.
How do you record that?
It is going to be 6 books, and I plan as little as possible, because I actually like to find answers in daily life. I like the idea of bringing randomness into it. I'll give you an example from the next book, which is after Liza's Plague, because we love the cheerful titles. So in Plague, there was a part where I kind of hit a wall, and like I just knew that I needed an idea, right? So you kind of drive around thinking in the back of your head, well, I need something here. I don't know what it is, but I need something. So I was driving my daughter to school and happened to get cut off by a train, and looked at the train and thought, train. And then I had my answer. I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. And if I'd been there a minute later or a minute earlier, that wouldn't have happened, and the book would have gone a different direction. I would have found some other solution. But I love the idea of incorporating a sort of randomness to things. I love the idea of going around like a found art kind of thing, and being surprised by it. And I also particularly love the idea, and I hate to sound like like an author, but sometimes it's true, the characters just kind of take over, and I'll often be surprised and look at what I'm writing and go, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. And then typing away, that was, are you nuts? Don't do that. They keep doing it, because if you've done it right, then the characters are at a point where you have no capacity to suddenly shift them. You don't realize what they've become. You start off by writing them as a kind of a point in time, a fixed point. But then they grow over time and acquire behaviors and characteristics and become more fleshed out as full human beings. And then you have no choice, to me, as an author, but to follow your character. You can't go to me, you can't go the other way. You can't just say, well, I'm going to change the personality of this guy because that'll fit my story. No, I got to follow the character. The character, if he won't do it, if Sam won't do something, if Quinn won't do something, then I can't do it. That's the rule.